And a very warm welcome to the channel. Right, what are we on with? Well, we're going to be starting a little mini-series for you. And it's going to be called the Orchard Road Project. We've got more lime plastering to do, brick fettling, wood whittling, there's all sorts. So we're going to take you through the journey of this project. Probably put a video out maybe once a month on it, because we're not going to be on this project full time, because we do have other commitments. However, it will be most interesting. So the first part of this new mini-series is going to be the creation of a beautified chimney breast. Right, let's crack on with some work. Right, so the first job that we've got to do is we've got to get rid of the remaining bits of skirting board, because eventually it'll have some new reproduction skirting run through. So we're going to carefully remove that with the old bolster chisel. Easier said than done. There we go. Right, so we've successfully removed that side. You always find a bit of fixophone, don't you? Yeah, well that one's a bit, I'll have that off there. Yeah. Bit of the old dowel bead on the bottom there. Yeah, lovely bit of dowel bead. Now that's your original Victorian wooden dowel bead. I'm going to have to whittle some of these because I cannot find anybody that supplies them. And you can see there the original nail. They didn't mess about with the nails back then, did they? You know. Yeah. I mean, we could extract that and put it back in, couldn't we? Seems to be stuck. Right. Okay. So we'll keep hold of that because I can use that to reproduce some new ones. Okay, so we'll get the other bit of skirting board off and start fettling up this chimney breast, ready to take some lime plaster. Now down here we've got some of the original old plugwood. Now if you look at this, it shaves off that way. You flip it over and it shaves off that way, but that's on opposite sides. The idea is that when you bang it into the break joint, it tries to straighten itself because it's twisting, and that makes it much tighter into the break joint. Very clever idea, simple but clever. Right, so we just need to remove a bit of plugwood there. That's got rid of that. Right. Okay, so that's our skirtings now removed. Well, the next job is inside this this fire opening here. I've got to obviously lime plaster that, but there's a bit of soot on it here and there. So what I might do is attack it with the old cup disc on the grinder, just to get rid of the soot, because we don't want that bleeding through the lime. Plus it it may stop the line from adhering to the wall. Also, the square corners, we may have to just knock the actual square corner off so that we can get a lovely bullnose sweep around there. Right. Right, we'll leave the very bottom on there because it's going to be a piece of square skirting going to there. So we'll bullnose it so far, then we'll square it off and put a little fluted end on it there. Right, so I've got to deal with the issue of soot in the old fire oven here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack it with the old cup disc and see if we can't remove the soot. Well, that's certainly a mucky job. As you can see, it's got the soot off there now. So I'll give it a flick over with a hose pipe, wet it all up, and then we can get a scratch coat onto that, and it'll stick lovely to that because there's now no tar or soot or carbon or anything on them brick. It's just back to clay brick. I'm going to do the sides because this brickwork's all been altered at some stage and there's no soot on it. So we're fine with that. We don't need to bother with that. It's a bit dusty in here now, a bit foggy. It's a good job it's empty house, isn't it? Imagine this all over the house. Ooh, that wouldn't go down well. Right, let's get it wet up. Right, let's let that soak in for a bit. Right, so we're going to go with the little 11-inch trowel because not a lot of room to swing the bigger trowel in there. Right, so nose of the trowel. Yummy. Really press hard. Want it to stick. It's going to have a log burner in here. Hello, we've got a big lump of metal there. Oh. Tie wire or something sticking out. Not anymore. So this is the scratch coat. The beginnings of 3 coats. 3 coats? Yep, 3 coats. So we put on the scratch coat, scratch it obviously, and we'll leave that for about a week. And then we can put our float coat on top of that. And then the following day, we can put our finishing coat on it. I want to say you leave it for a week, that's a minimum. But when you come to put your float coat on, you really need to saturate the scratch coat. And I mean saturate it. Otherwise you're going to have trouble. It's going to suck in, it's going to crack, and all that horrible stuff that you don't need. Now we're using on here a combination of a plastering sand and quicklime. Now it's quicklime putty as usual that I made 2 days ago. So we know that it's slaked, or it better have slaked. There's no lumps of kibble in it, so I assume it has. So now the back's on. I'll crack some on these sides and start forming the bull nose corners. Now, you'll note tether and tether that I have fixed a batten to the wall. Now that's plumb, nice and plumb. It's not plumb that way because the chimney breast is out by about that. So I'm not going to try and bring it out to that. That'd be silly. But it's plumb that way. So when I run up my bull nose, it'll be nice and plumb. I've got a special gadget for running the bull nose. This back's still lovely and wet. So it pays to saturate your brickwork, because the last thing you want is suction. Suction is very, very bad when it comes to lime. Okay, so somewhere we have a little gadget. It's going to help me form my bull nose corner. Now this coat's not going to be absolutely perfect, so don't panic. We're going to get it somewhere like round with this. The main thing is work to that batten, especially with your finishing coats, because you want it plumb. Because if it's not plumb and straight, it's going to look horrendous. Now bear in mind, this is just a scratch coat. Keep going and pulling it off. I mean, you can see it's taking shape there now. May have to just form the very top of it with the trowel. Let's clean that off there. don't want it too thick on this this coat, because, like I said, it's a scratch coat, and if it's too thick, it's probably going to crack. So it needs building up in layers. That's one of the things with lime is, if you try and build up too quickly, it will start to crack on you as it dries out. Right, rid of that. And the trowel up there. Up there. And once more with the gadget. Now you can see my idea. You know, if you visualise all of this done and plastered and that lovely sweep, which will be wider than that. You know, the bull nose will be wider than that when we get our final coats on. But I think it'll look splendid myself. And then this lovely log burner roaring away in the middle of winter. And of course, with it being lime, it's the preferred material for doing inside fire openings like this when you're having log burners. You wouldn't do it if you were having a coal fire in there. You know, I'd just kill it. But with a log burner, all that heat building up in there, it's not going to affect this at all. Lime's very good at taking the heat. Whereas if we were to do it with, say for example, a gypsum fireline plasterboard, we'll probably end up with it cracking. You know, so you dot and dabbed your gypsum fireline plasterboard onto there, and you skimmed it with your multi-finish. Log burner's gone in, it's roaring away, and you've got cracks all over it. And they're phoning you up saying, "Yep, I want it redoing, but the log burner's going to have to come out, and you're going to have to pay the man to come and put it back in when you've done it with lime." To do it with lime, basically. Right, I'll get the other side banged on, 'cause you don't want to see that again, do you? And then we'll get some scratches in, and I'll show you what you do with the scratches. Right, you'll note there at the bottom how that's square. Well, it's got a skirting board. So that's basically what you do. You've got your bull nose, and then you bring it off like that. It goes to a point. You'll have seen it before. But done that both sides. And like I say, bear in mind, this is just scratch coat, so, you know, it's not perfectly straight and so on, because it doesn't need to be. There you go. We're now going to undertake the roughing up of the scratch coat. Okay, I've applied some wet stuff to it with the old hose pipe. Now you don't need to do this. I'm doing this because I want the best key I can possibly get on this, because it's going to have a log burner in there and a lot of heat. So the better the key, the better the job. So it's already started to pull in at the bottom, despite all that water that's been put on it. It doesn't take a lot of suction with this stuff to dry it quickly. I might just have to keep my eye on it and just keep dabbing it with a little bit of water every now and again. And carefully sweep round there. Okay, so that's kind of give it a rough texture. Like I said, you don't have to do that with your scratch coat, but it does help to give it more of an adhesion. So next we need the scratching gadget. So that is the scratching gadget. Now you can knock one of these up using some of your spare lath. This particular one I knocked up, and I give it a drink of linseed oil, which just preserves it a little bit, doesn't it? Right, so this is your scratching tool that you need for lime, because you boys that are plasterers, when working with lime, you're doing your scratch coats. It's not like doing a scratch coat for your cement renders, where you have your comb and you do your wiggly line. No, a scratch coat with lime needs a triangular pattern, and it needs to be quite aggressive too. See now how aggressive that is. Now if that was a scratch coat for a, say for example, a cement render or a bit of the old K render something, you'd be complaining and saying I can't work with that. But with lime, it really does need to be as aggressive as that. Come the other way. A little bit of a thing there and there. See how dry it's gone on the bottom there. But once this has been left for a week and we get that float coat on it, we then use our straight edges to get it all nice and straight. We've got some corner trowels to make sure that the corners are all nice and square and straight and plumb and everything. And then once that's been done, it's ready for the chaps to come in and fit a log burner, because we don't get involved with that. Very dry at the bottom. Very wet at the top. But I expected the top where the soot had been to be quite dry, because it will have an element of tar that's made its way into the fabric of the brick, which will be acting as like a bit of a waterproofer, I suppose. But failing taking out all the bricks and replacing them, you're not going to do anything about that. It'll still stick to it though. Again, aggressive with your scratching. And when you come to do your float coat, before you start applying it, just get your lean on trowel and just give it a quick rub, just to knock all the lumps and bits off it. Right, there you go. So that's how you do the inside of a chimney breast for taking, for example, a log burner. Now, the beauty with the lime is we've got two good reasons that we'd use lime. One is the heat. Okay, very important. That heat will crack a gypsum plaster without a doubt. You can get like a heat-proof, fire-resistant plaster for putting onto plasterboard. It takes about 3 years to set. It's expensive and it's horrible to use. So really, going down that road's not the best. And the other side of it is, at the end of the day, this is a chimney breast. And there'll be no cavity at the back of that wall. It'll just be a solid mass to the outside. So any moisture that builds up on the outside can always creep through to the inside. Even though you've got that big log burner going every other day, it's still going to get dampness coming through. So you might end up with salts and things like that appearing. But if you do it with lime, any moisture that does get through will just keep coming and come out and disappear into the atmosphere. Lime. Right, next bit. There you go. Well, it's late on a Friday. I'm just packing up because I'm on a different job next week. It's like moving house, shifting all your tools. But there you go. That's looking something like a proper chimney breast. I bullnosed all of the corners. And at the bottom there, you'll see it's going to go square on both sides to take the skirting boards. It'll look quite effective when it's done. And of course the bullnose corners we did earlier on the opening itself. Very nice. Right, we'll see you next time.